Here we are with one of my absolute favourite pioneer species. This is an absolute wonder tree and an amazing find thanks to my permaculture mentor Jeff Lawton. He gave me some seeds initially and they have just been the biggest success. So this is the Tephrosia vogeli. So not only has it just been such a fast grower and it survived frost, it has survived drought, but also it's a natural insecticide. So we've been trialling at the moment, just taking some leaves, crushing it up, adding some water and using it as a spray for these yellow beetles that have been decimating everything at the moment. And you can also use them as a chop and drop, and they're amazing to shelter your new seedlings as well, just by feeding the soil, providing much needed shelter with the hot summer days and keeping the soil moist underneath as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to harvest some seeds today and propagate them. So the thing to listen for when you're harvesting, just like the pigeon pea, is the rattle of the pods. So you'll see the pods, they're actually a furry pod, and if you can hear that rattle, you know that the seeds are dry enough to pop in the ground and be able to propagate. So I want to propagate heaps of these this summer because I think we're going to have quite a dry season. So I want to get as much shade around my trees as possible to reduce the effects of evaporation. These are also really wind tolerant, so another way of preventing evaporation is to create windbreaks, fast growing windbreaks around all of your target species. So I'm just getting the dry pods. These are the young pods, so you'll see the difference. The young pods are this kind of beigey colour, and then I'll just pop those down there, and then the mature pods, they start to turn a little bit grey, but as long as they're rattling, you know that they're dry enough to propagate. So after collecting our seed pods, what I'm doing is I'm just shelling them into a container. And when you're shelling your seeds, you just want to make sure that there's no sign of bugs or mold or anything like that, because that can contaminate the rest of your seeds and stop them from germinating. But usually the Tephrosia germinates quite readily. Oops. And when they're dry like this, they're really easy to get all the seeds out. So there we have it. So we've got a selection now of our seeds. Now what I have here is just a leftover container. I've drilled some holes in the bottom just with some sharp snips for drainage. This is a mixture of 50-50 sharp river sand and compost. But with the Tephrosia, it fixes its own nitrogen. So if you've just got some river sand or poor quality potting mix, it's fine. So what I do is I just fill it up like that. And you can sow these quite densely. Often I'll sow them a lot more densely than this. I just sprinkle them across the top, and then I just bury them with just a thin layer. So what I do is just mix them around. And then usually within a couple of weeks, you'll notice them sprouting. So as long as the temperature's warm enough, they should appear within a few weeks. So because I've pre-moistened this, I'll come back and probably give it another water tomorrow. So you just want to keep it damp but not soaking wet, and just make sure they're all covered. And that's all I do. That's simple. Then I just make sure when I'm labeling things, I always just write what I've sown. So in this case, Tephrosia. And I just wrote where I harvested the seed from. So if I want to get more, I always know where to go back to. And then I just write today's date, just so that I know if I come across this container in a couple of months and nothing's happened, then perhaps it was a bad batch of seed. So I know that, okay, I can discard this and maybe start again. So I'll just put today's date. And just like that. And I just pop it in the shade house and let them sprout. And then once I get the second set of leaves coming up, I'll put them into individual pots. So I'll show you what the seedlings look like now. So here we are with a Tephrosia seedling that is a few months old, and at this size it's actually ready to go in the ground. So I'll take you for a tour now and show you some of the seedlings and how we've used them as protection for our target species. Actually planted these in autumn, so they've survived some light frosts, and you can see the surrounding soil. It's highly compacted, very difficult to work in, a lot of clay content, really difficult to dig into. And I've planted a row of these going up the driveway because in between I've actually planted a native gardenia and a native coolaman tree, which is part of a member of the lily-pilly family. And so what I wanted to do was try and improve the soil and also help feed the target species either side. So when we get the really scorching 40-degree days with a harsh afternoon sun, these trees will get to probably 2.5 meters tall and provide some much needed shade and shelter. So here I found an example of the red shoulder beetle. So they're about the size of a lady beetle. You can see they're yellow and they've got a very distinct red band across their shoulder there. So these bugs came in plague proportions, especially through our avocado orchard, and absolutely decimated our avocado trees. So I'll take you over and show you just the damage they've done. Now the problem with these, they've got no natural predators. So I'll show you what they've done. So this is the leaf of an avocado tree. Luckily it's starting to make a comeback now, so it's got some beautiful new growth. And the other one they heavily attacked was this white mulberry over here. So you can see just as this started shooting after winter, plagues of these bugs came and stripped the tree bare. So I've collected just half a dozen of the Tephrosia leaves, and we're just going to make a natural insecticide against the red shoulder beetle. So what I do is I just grab, this is just like a ninja blender, grab the container, I just strip the leaves off like this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to blitz the leaves with some water. And then we're going to put it in a pump sprayer. And the reason being, I can actually get the pressure up. So that looks like this. We're going to put it into one of these containers. Because the mulberry tree is actually quite tall, we need pressure to actually reach the top branches to where the bugs are stripping the leaves off. So pop your leaves just in your container like that. Then you want to add some water. Then apologies for the noise, this is going to be quite loud. Okay, looks like a green smoothie. Now what we have to do is just find a fine strainer. I'm just using the one out of, a teapot. So just like that, really nice and fine, because you don't want the particles blocking up your sprayer. So we just strain it through there, and then we can pour it into our sprayer. And hopefully this will work. So we're here with our white mulberry tree, and as you can see, the bugs have stripped off all this new growth here. And we don't want to lose the mulberries for this season, so we're going to test our Tephrosia and water mix and see if it can repel these red shoulder beetles. So what we do, we get our pump and just create some pressure in there and just spray it with a light mist. And then to reach the top of the tree, I actually just set it to this stream function, and then I can actually reach all the way to the top where the beetles are stripping off all the leaves. So I'll continue until the whole tree is covered, and then I'll report back in a couple of days and let you know the results. I'm back with our white mulberry tree a few days later after applying the water and Tifrosia mix, and the results are unbelievable. So this tree that was being completely stripped by swarms of these beetles, there's not one beetle left on this tree. So it looks like this season we'll be able to save, sorry about the rooster, it looks like we'll be able to save our crop of white mulberry. So what an amazing natural insect repellent.